In this video, we are going to study the chapter, Nationalism in India. But before we start with the topic, do you know what is nationalism? Is it a feeling or a movement? What exactly is nationalism? Let me now explain that to you. How do you feel when you see your country's flag waving in the wind? It fills you with a sense of pride and patriotism. But have you ever wondered how this feeling came to be? Our national flag is not just a symbol, it represents the struggle and sacrifices of millions of people who fought for their rights and their freedom. When you see that flag, you know that you're part of this country, you belong to this and this belongs to you. You're a part of something bigger than yourself. That's the magic of our national flag, and that feeling is nationalism. Our country is made up of people from different backgrounds, religions, and cultures. But always remember that we may be different, but the one thing that binds us all together is our shared sense of nationalism. It's what drives us to work together, stand up for what's right, and to strive for a better future for ourselves and for our fellow citizens. So, nationalism is a political and social ideology that emphasizes the importance of a shared national identity, culture, history, and often language, and promotes the interests and aspirations of a particular nation or group of people above those of others. India is the largest democracy in the world. But it was not like this always. There was a time when people of India were denied their basic human rights, when they were treated like second-class citizens in their own land, and when the ruling powers showed no sign of giving them the respect they deserved. But the people of India refused to be silenced. They refused to be held down by the weight of oppression, and instead, they rose up to fight for their freedom and their dignity. This is the story of how the spark of nationalism was ignited in the hearts of millions, and how it burned brightly until it illuminated the path to independence, or I would say, nationalism in India. To study the rise of nationalism in India, we've divided this video into the following parts for your understanding. First, introduction to nationalism in India. Second, the First World War, Khilafat and non-cooperation, in which we will further learn about the First World War, the idea of Satyagraha, the Rowlatt Act, and why non-cooperation. Let us start with nationalism in India, or modern Indian nationalism, from anti-colonial struggle to independence. Modern nationalism in India is closely linked to the anti-colonial movement. As the people of India struggled against colonialism, they discovered their unity. They realized that their shared oppression under colonialism created a bond between different groups. Each class and group experienced colonialism differently, leading to varied notions of freedom. To unite these groups within one movement, the Congress, under Mahatma Gandhi, tried to bring them together. The growth of nationalism in India picked up from the 1920s with the non-cooperation and civil disobedience movements. The Congress aimed to develop the national movement and include different social groups. Various groups participated in the movement, contributing to the spread of nationalism. Unity within the movement emerged through conflicts and negotiations between different groups. As nationalism grew, new symbols, songs, and ideas were created, and people's sense of identity and belonging changed. It was a long and complex process, but eventually, India gained its independence from colonial rule. So, the anti-colonial movement and experiences of different social groups helped shape nationalism in India that eventually led to its freedom. It captured the imagination of people and united them in a common cause. And so, through their struggle and sacrifice, India gained its independence on August 15, 1947, and its people celebrated the birth of a new era of freedom and pride. So, now we will understand various factors and movements which led to the India's independence, starting with the era of 1920, as you have already studied the earlier movements before. The era of 1920 included the First World War, Khilafat and non-cooperation, which is the second topic of our video. The growth of nationalism in India during the 1920s was not only shaped by the anti-colonial movement but also by the challenging economic and social situation in the country. So, first, let's learn about the economic and political situation in the country after the First World War. In the years after 1919, India was going through a challenging time. The country had just come out of the World War I, which had led to an increase in defense expenditure, financed by war loans and increased taxes. This had resulted in a doubling of prices between 1913 and 1918, leading to extreme hardship for the common people. To make things worse, crop failures and famines had struck India in 1918-19 and 1920-21, causing severe food shortages and an influenza epidemic. According to the 1921 census, 12 to 13 million people died due to famines and the epidemic. People were struggling to make ends meet, and forced recruitment in rural areas led to widespread anger. They hoped that their hardships would end after the war, but they were disappointed. However, in the midst of all this, a new leader emerged, who suggested a new mode of struggle for the national movement. Can you guess who this new leader was? He was none other than Mahatma Gandhi. This new leader's ideas led to significant developments in the national movement in India. The movement started spreading to new areas and incorporating new social groups. So students, despite the difficult economic and political situation post-war and the devastating crop failures and famines, the national movement in India continued to grow and evolve. And through the leadership of brave and visionary individuals, India gained its independence, paving the way for a new era of freedom and pride. Now that you have understood the topic, you must practice short and long answer questions on EduRev. This will help you understand the variety of questions that will be asked in the exam. Moving on, let us study about a movement that inspired the nation, the idea of Satyagraha. At that time, a man named Gandhi had a vision for his country. He wanted to inspire people to stand up against oppression, but without resorting to violence. His idea was called Satyagraha, which means the pursuit of truth. Gandhi believed that if people fought for their rights with truth and non-violence, they could achieve anything. In 1917, Gandhi decided to put his idea into action. He traveled to Champaran, a region in Bihar where poor peasants worked on plantations under oppressive conditions. Gandhi spoke to the peasants and listened to their struggles. He encouraged them to stand up for their rights and demand better working conditions. This movement became known as the Champaran movement. The success of the Champaran movement inspired Gandhi to organize more Satyagraha movements. In the same year, he organized the Kheda Satyagraha in Gujarat. The peasants in Kheda were suffering from crop failures and a plague epidemic. They were unable to pay their revenue collection to the British government due to the crisis. Gandhi led the peasants in demanding the relaxation of revenue collection. The movement gained national attention and helped bring attention to the plight of the peasants. In 1918, Gandhi went to Ahmedabad to organize a Satyagraha movement amongst the cotton mill workers. The workers were facing terrible working conditions and low wages. Gandhi led the workers in demanding better conditions and wages. The movement spread across India, and the workers gained support from people all over the country. To conclude, the Satyagraha movements led by Gandhi were instrumental in the Indian independence movement. They inspired people across the country to fight for their rights and demand a better future for themselves and their families. Next, let's move to the topic of the Rowlatt Act, a law enacted by the British government in India. British government had always suppressed Indians of their basic rights, and in 1919, they wanted to take away their basic right of fighting for their freedom by introducing the Rowlatt Act. In 1919, the British government imposed Rowlatt Act, which granted the government extensive powers to suppress political activities. The act allowed the detention of political prisoners without trial for up to 2 years. Mahatma Gandhi had returned from South Africa and decided to lead a non-violent struggle against the oppressive British regime. He initiated the nationwide satyagraha against the Rowlatt Act. Non-violent civil disobedience was planned against the unjust laws, starting with Hartal on the 6th of April. Rallies and strikes were organized in various cities, with workers going on strike and shops closing down, instilling fear in the British administration. Local leaders were arrested, and Mahatma Gandhi was barred from entering Delhi. On the 10th of April, the police fired upon a peaceful procession in Amritsar, resulting in widespread attacks on government buildings and the imposition of martial law. Then, on April 13, 1919, one of the most tragic events in India's history took place at the enclosed Jallianwala Bagh ground. A large crowd had gathered there, with some protesting against the government's repressive measures, while others were attending the Baisakhi fair. General Dyer entered the area, blocked the exits, and ordered his soldiers to open fire on the unarmed crowd. The firing lasted for 10 minutes, killing hundreds of people and leaving thousands injured. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre shook the entire country, and people were furious. They went on strikes, clashed with the police, and attacked government buildings. The government responded with brutal repression, including humiliating and terrorizing people by forcing satyagrahis to crawl on the streets and flogging them. Mahatma Gandhi, who had earlier called for a nationwide satyagraha against the Rowlatt Act, realized the need for a broader movement that required bringing Hindus and Muslims together. He saw an opportunity to unite both communities through the Khilafat issue. The harsh peace treaty being imposed on the defeated Ottoman Turkey had caused concerns among Muslims in India. The Khilafat Committee was formed in Bombay in March 1919, and Muslim leaders like Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali began discussing the possibility of united mass action with Mahatma Gandhi. At the Calcutta session of the Congress in September 1920, Gandhiji convinced other leaders of the need to start a non-cooperation movement in support of Khilafat and Swaraj. So, the movement was a call for Indians to boycott British institutions, including educational institutions, courts, and government services. Eventually, the non-cooperation movement became a turning point in India's struggle for independence led by Mahatma Gandhi. In the early 20th century, India was under British rule. Mahatma Gandhi, a prominent Indian nationalist, believed that the British were only able to maintain their control over India because of the cooperation of Indians. In his book Hind Swaraj, Gandhi wrote that if Indians refused to cooperate with the British, their rule would collapse within a year, leading to Indian self-rule or Swaraj. Gandhi proposed a staged approach to the non-cooperation movement. In stage 1, Indians would surrender government-awarded titles, boycott civil services, army, police, courts, legislative councils, schools, and foreign goods. But if the government responded with repression, Gandhi was prepared to move to stage 2, launching a full civil disobedience campaign. But not everyone in the Indian Congress was on board with Gandhi's proposal. Many were concerned about the potential for violence and were reluctant to boycott the council elections scheduled for November 1920. The debate within the Congress was intense, lasting from September to December 1920. In the end, the Indian Congress voted in favor of Gandhi's proposal for the non-cooperation movement. So, the non-cooperation movement marked a turning point in India's struggle for independence, as Indians began to stand up against the British and demand their right to self-rule. And it was all thanks to the vision and leadership of one man, Mahatma Gandhi. In conclusion, modern Indian nationalism highlights the struggles and hardships faced by the Indian people during the anti-colonial movement. The idea of satyagraha, introduced by Gandhi, inspired the people to fight for their rights without resorting to violence. And the Rowlatt Act brought out the people's anger towards the colonial government's oppressive policies. This instilled a feeling of nationalism among every Indian, which eventually made the movement stronger, leading to our independence. Now, here's a secret on how you can study effectively on EduRev. You can learn with chapter notes, video lectures and solve MCQ tests of this chapter on EduRev to ensure you score well in your Class 10 board exams. Not just social studies, you get amazing courses for maths, science, English, Hindi, and much more on EduRev. Thank you.